Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss McCray, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what you're going to be learning for science this week. I first wanted to go ahead and show you how you're going to be able to access those materials from the parent materials guide that your family's got via email. So if you all take a look at what I'm sharing with you here, we're going to scroll down to science since that's what we're talking about today. And you'll notice it says that you're going to be learning about animal adaptations, identifying physical and behavioral adaptations. You're going to have 4 different sections to read and 3 charts to complete. So let's take a look at what that looks like. I'm just going to hover over this hyperlinked file here, and you'll notice it pops up. I can just click that. It's going to take you over to our 3rd grade science packet. And our goal for this week is to complete activities and resources 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when you hover over those blue words, it's going to take you to a bookmark in the document. So here you can see you're going to be reading about adaptations, specifically physical adaptations, and you're going to complete this table here about physical adaptations for some listed animals. Reading 2 is just this short paragraph here about camouflage, where you will complete this table. Resource 3 is this bit of paragraph here talking about mimicry, and then reading this table with some examples. And then your final resource for this week and activity for this week are about behavioral adaptations. So you're going to read these 4 short paragraphs about hibernation, migration, and dormancy before you complete the table here. Once you've completed this final table, you're done with your science materials for the week. Now, I do want to spend a little bit of time with you guys talking about different adaptations. So we know that adaptations are ways that animals change in order to survive. And there are 2 big categories of adaptation. So if we are creating a flowchart and we put animal adaptations at the top, we're going to split that into 2 different categories that we're going to learn about today. Our first category is going to be physical adaptations. Our second category is going to be behavioral adaptations. All right, so let's focus in for a second on physical adaptations. Physical adaptations are things about an animal's body that allow it to survive. Maybe those body parts are allowing it to hide from predators. Maybe it's allowing them to catch their prey. Maybe it's allowing them to eat their prey. So all animals have different physical things about their body that allow them to survive. Let's take a look at some specific examples. One specific example that you're going to read about this week is camouflage. Now, we know that camouflage means to blend into your surroundings. There are animals everywhere around us, but they're so good at camouflaging that we, a lot of times, can't see them. One of those specific animals that you may notice out and about is a tree frog. You'll notice that this tree frog has the same green coloring as the leaf behind it. This tree frog is using camouflage in order to help it survive. So one type of physical adaptation is camouflage. And that is blending in with your surroundings. Another physical adaptation is called mimicry. Mimicry is when an animal pretends to be like another animal in order to survive. For example, a viceroy butterfly has adapted to look a lot like a monarch butterfly. That helps a viceroy butterfly to survive because a monarch butterfly is poisonous to many animals. So if an animal comes across a viceroy butterfly, they're going to think that that is a dangerous bug to eat, and that predator is going to move on, and the viceroy butterfly survives. So that is an example of mimicry. Remembering camouflage is blending in. Mimicry is when you're copying the look of another animal. The final example of physical adaptations has to do with an animal's body parts. Lots of animals have special body parts that help them to survive. For example, if you're anything like me, I love watching Disney movies, and this picture makes me think of Bruce from Finding Nemo. Bruce and all other sharks have a very important physical adaptation or a body part that allows them to survive. Their teeth. These teeth help them to not only catch their prey, but bite into their prey so that they can have the nutrients they need to survive. So their shark teeth are a body part that allow them to survive, a physical adaptation that helps these sharks survive. Another example of a body part that allows animals to survive would be a duck's webbed feet. I'd like for you to think for a second about how a duck's webbed feet help that animal to survive. Any ideas? All right, so we know that a duck lives for most of its life treading through water and swimming through water. Without its webbed feet, it wouldn't be able to do that. It wouldn't be able to move throughout its habitat and get to its food sources. So we know that its webbed feet are a body part that are a physical adaptation that help those ducks to survive. Now, on the other side of our flowchart here, we have another type of adaptation. We have behavioral adaptations. Behavioral adaptations are ways that animals act in order to survive. Physical adaptations are things about their body. Behavioral adaptations are ways that they act. There are 3 types of behavioral adaptations that you're going to read about this week. One of those is called hibernation. Hibernation is a behavioral adaptation because we know that some animals like to rest and conserve their energy throughout the winter times because there's not a lot of food available. One of those examples, of course, is a bear. A bear hibernates throughout the colder months because its food sources become less available. So throughout the warmer season, they store up a lot of energy so that their body can still run and function throughout those winter months while they're sleeping and resting. Another behavioral adaptation that we see, not in animals, but in some types of plants, is called dormancy. Dormancy is very similar to hibernation, except it's with trees. Trees spend part of their year resting and storing energy just like animals do. You can really see this when you take a look at the leaves throughout the year. In the springtime and summer, we see trees full of green and luscious leaves. By the time the fall rolls around, we see those leaves changing color and turning into yellows and oranges and reds. And then eventually, what happens to those leaves? They fall down to the ground. Once those leaves have fallen to the ground, our trees look very bare throughout the winter. But those trees are just resting and storing their energy. So when the spring rolls around, they're able to grow their leaves again and start that cycle all over again. So we can see throughout a year how a tree goes through the process of dormancy, which is resting and storing energy in trees, just like how animals rest and store energy through hibernation. The third type of behavioral adaptation that you're going to read about this week is one that has to do with movement. Do you guys have any guesses? It starts with an M. And that third behavioral adaptation is migration. Migration is when large numbers of the same species travel a long distance in order to find food sources and have a habitat that supports their life and their community. So one of those examples that I'm sure popped into your mind was when geese migrate. We see them flying south every winter from the more northern parts of North America into the southern parts of our hemisphere. And that is to move to a place where there are warmer temperatures and also make sure that they have access to the food that's going to help them stay alive. So again, migrating is moving when large groups of one species move together in order to survive. And that's just one of our examples of behavioral adaptations. So in your reading this week, as I said, you're going to read about hibernation, dormancy, and migration. But there are lots of other different types of behavioral adaptation. And we're just going to label those as other behaviors. And some other examples of those behaviors could be like our squirrels storing nuts. So this is an action that they take. They actively pick up nuts and acorns and find a place to store them and keep them safe so that they can have food during the colder months. So that is an action or a behavior that's allowing them to survive. This is an adaptation that they have acquired or used in order to survive. And I'm also thinking about another animal that we've read about this year in one of our favorite books, our humorous books that we just read before school was out, The Great Fuzz Frenzy. Those prairie dogs in our story loved to dig holes to create their communities underground. That is a behavior or an action that these prairie dogs have used in order to stay away from predators and stay safe. So these prairie dogs are using a behavioral adaptation of digging holes in order to survive. So we've talked a lot about the different types of animal adaptations today. We've talked about physical adaptations or adaptations about an animal's body, like camouflage, blending into a background, mimicry, trying to look like another animal in order to survive, and of course, those different body parts that allow an animal to survive. We've also talked about behavioral adaptations. And those behavioral adaptations are actions that animals take or use in order to survive, like hibernation and dormancy, when animals and plants rest and store their energy through the winter months, or conserve their energy through the winter months. We also spoke about migration, when a large group of one species move together in order to survive in a new habitat. We also talked about some other behaviors that animals use in order to survive, like our squirrels storing nuts and our prairie dogs digging holes.